What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back for another album review. I know I said at the end of yesterday's review I was going to cover Sonata Arctica, but I discovered it's an acoustic album, and I didn't really want to cover that for a review by itself. I wanted to do that now as part of the Under the Radar series, which that episode will be coming out later in the week, maybe Thursday after I get through everything else. But regardless, I got another one for you guys, and this was originally going to be part of the Under the Radar episode, but after seeing Thralls of Metal do the review for it, and I had this on my list of stuff to check out, so I decided to do a review for it. This is the second album from Greek death metal or death thrash band Abyssus, called Death Revival, and this is only their second album. They're a Greek death metal, death thrash band that formed back in the early 2010s. So, after looking through their Metal Archives page, I noticed that they have been compared to a lot of classic death metal bands like Obituary, Asphyx, Autopsy, Death, Bolt Thrower, Master, Massacre, Malevolent Creation. So do we get all that on this album? Well, let's find out as we kick things off with Metal of Death, which after some thunder and rain, some thrashy riffs and beats coming on in, and the energy is infectious on here. The vocals, yeah, definitely all throughout the album, it's like the vocals kind of take some different twists, but the primary two vocalists I kind of hear the most in are like Carl Willits from Bolt Thrower and John Tardy from Obituary, with a little sprinkle of Martin Van Drunen and Chuck Schuldiner thrown in there too. So it's kind of like a mashup of all four, Chuck, John, Martin, and Carl, kind of mashed together into one voice. And it's gross sounding and dry, like, ah! And it makes things really nasty on this entire album. But on this track, these riffs definitely remind me of like early Death, particularly like Scream Bloody Gore, Leprosy era, as well as Master, like the first Master album. And the track itself, it's very much a straightforward death thrash tune, some chaotic solos towards the end that certainly remind me a little bit of Slayer, because it's just chaotic, just going everywhere, rather than the more melodic flair that we will actually hear very soon. Following that, we get the track The Ten Commandments. Great riff to kind of get things to build up in the beginning before it turns back into that thrashy energy with some more great thrash, death thrash riffs. And once again, reminds me of early Death, but also I hear a little bit of that Malevolent Creation influence. After all, Malevolent Creation had an album called The Ten Commandments, so I kind of figure this song was kind of almost an homage to that era of Malevolent. And in the middle of the song, we get a really cool breakdown with some melodic riffs going on before a quick, tasty lead, and then it returns back to that thrashy energy towards the end. Uncertain Future, some sweet melodic riffs going on to get things started on this song before it transitions back into more of that thrashy energy again. And there are some tremolo riffs going on here that kind of remind me a little bit of like black metal, like or Blackened Death, kind of like early Necrophobic to some extent. No leads on this track, which I was kind of surprised by. And the song finishes kind of the same way it started, with the melodic riffs. The Beast Within, the middle track of the album, this was one of the standouts for me because this track is mostly groovy and chunky and thick all throughout with the riffs that we're getting here. And these riffs remind me most of Bolt Thrower and the more mid-tempo Obituary stuff. And these riffs fucking kick ass. And in the pre-chorus, we get this Leprosy-inspired part with the riffs and the beats going on. And I love the double bass work all throughout this track. And then the best lead of the album so far comes in towards the end, and it has this wonderful haunting melodic flair going on. And pretty much all throughout the rest of the album, we get more of those melodic solos rather than the Slayer, like Kerry King squealy dive bomb stuff that we got on the first track. Genocide, which was one of 2 songs that was past 6 minutes. Some violins starting here to kind of set the mood for the track, giving it like a unique horror feel. Mid-tempo riffs and beats that follow suit, and then we get back to that thrashiness of the first half of the album. Some tinges of melody even come in on some of these riffs, especially in the chorus. And the riffs turn sinister after the second chorus to like almost Slayer-style riffing. Another chaotic solo, but this time the chaos has some melody on there, not just squealy dive bombs going on. The penultimate track, The Witch, thick, chunky riff with double bass in the beginning, and it gets things started on a heavier note before it gets into the thrashiness of tracks prior. Slight dynamic shifts going on with the guitars, and the song kind of goes back and forth between the mid-tempo grooves and the thrash energy. And despite it being under 3 minutes, it stands out as like a song that's just in your face and in straight to the point. But then we get to my favorite song of the album, the longest track at nearly 7 minutes, the finale, When the Wolves Are Out to Hunt. Some creepy ambience going on. Then we get a wonderful melodic riff that reminds me of Asphyx, and this is the most doom-laden track of the album, as it's kind of between like doom and mid-tempo groove going on. And these doomy riffs definitely feel like Asphyx, Autopsy, and the slower Obituary riffs, but yet there's some melodic tinge to these riffs, and it's haunting and scary sounding. Then it grooves along with the tempo shifts and the riffs. It gets into that more groove-oriented style. Some tremolo riffing comes back again. Some of the best riffs of the entire album show up on this track. And then at the very close to the very end, the best lead of the entire album comes in, as it's a perfect balance between technical execution and haunting melodic feel going on. And this lead really stands above all else when it comes to the leads on this album, at least in my opinion. And that's how we conclude things. So overall, yeah, this band definitely pays homage to early death metal and death thrash very well, with those influences, like I said, of early Death, Obituary, Asphyx, Autopsy, Malevolent Creation, Master, Bolt Thrower, among others from that era of death metal and such. Really, the only things I could find to complain about is that I do wish that some of those songs that had the squealy dive bomb solos could have been executed a little bit more. But then again, it fits the chaotic nature of the tracks. After all, Kerry King invented that style of soloing where you're just squealing and dive bombing around to add to the chaos. And then the only other thing I could really find to complain about is it may sound a little derivative to that early era of death metal, and when it kind of leans on its influences, it's just really kind of rubbing along that line, but not really crossing it, but just rubbing along it, like it's just touching it. But there ain't nothing wrong with that in essence, because after all, there are a lot of bands going on in death metal that certainly pays homage to this period of the genre, like Gruesome and Skeletal Remains even, and those kick ass. This is no different than Gruesome or Skeletal Remains. So overall, despite it being a little bit derivative, as well as a couple of the solos could have been executed a little bit more, overall, I thought this was another great album. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Definitely some catchy riffs going on here, and this band paying homage to a classic era of extreme music, and nothing more, nothing less to say. What did you guys think of Death Revival by Abyssus? Let me know in the comment section below, and until next time, horns high, and I will see you in the next one. Trouble the Skull. 1985, this is Trouble's sophomore effort, and this is the Hammerhard Records reissue that came out last year. This is amazing doom metal that has a lot of Christian lyrics, but it's Christian lyrics done right. It's mostly the somber, dark stories about Christianity. And, I mean, even inside the case, it says a verse. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you.